Welcome to the Future Christian Podcast, your source for insights and ideas on how to lead your church in the 21st century. At the Future Christian Podcast, we talk to pastors, authors, and other faith leaders for helpful advice and practical wisdom to help you and your community of faith walk boldly into the future. Whether you're a pastor, church leader, or a passionate member of your faith community, this podcast is designed to challenge, inspire, and equip you with the tools you need for impactful ministry. And now for a little bit about the guest for this episode.
Welcome to the Future Christian Podcast. Today, Loren Richmond Jr. is in conversation with the Reverend Drew Crowson. Father Drew is just getting started as a church planter here in the Episcopal Diocese of Dallas. His experience before this was in young adult and youth ministry in locations from Dallas to Dusseldorf, Germany, an oil compound in the Middle East, and Auburn, Alabama. He was deeply formed by the early aughts emergent church movement, but pushed deeper into Jesus through the journey and was led into the Anglican tradition. He is married to an incredible woman, and together they have 3 little kids who daily remind them of their incomplete sanctification. A reminder before we start today's conversation, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share Future Christian with a friend. Connect with Loren, Martha, and Future Christian on Instagram. Shoot us an email at loren@resonatemediapro.com with comments, questions, or ideas for future episodes. We appreciate your voice in how we faithfully discern the future of the church.
All right, welcome to the Future Christian Podcast. My name is Loren Richmond Jr., and I'm pleased to be joined today by Drew Crowson. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Of course. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly.
I just
great.
realized I did not ask you about that, and that was a total guess, so I'm glad I
Nailed
got it
it
right. Yeah. Anything else you want listeners to know about you?
Yeah, I'm an Episcopal priest in the Diocese of Dallas, planting a church, which is kind of a crazy endeavor. I'm learning more and more how crazy it is every week. But I am, if you know anybody in Celina, Texas, I am happy to get coffee with whoever and whomever you know.
Yeah, love the hustle there. Share, if you would, kind of about your faith background and journey, what that looks like past and what that looks like today.
Yeah, so I grew up in the piney woods of East Texas. I grew up Baptist, as many people in that area of the world do, and felt called to seminary through working at a camp that I was working at. And then kind of the grief and trauma of losing my dad at 21 kind of led me through that. I went to college to be a sports talk radio host initially. So then the call to go into ministry was kind of drastic for me. I went to seminary initially at Denver Seminary. It's my first master's degree. From Denver Seminary, I graduated from there with a degree in Christian spiritual formation. That degree, the teachings of Dallas Willard, a lot of the readings that I did there began opening my mind and my ideas of the faith to other streams of the Christian faith, including Anglicanism. I remember getting a copy of a Book of Common Prayer from a professor and being kind of astounded at the depth of it and the fact and kind of the disappointment that I didn't know that this existed. And I'd been a Christian my whole life. Right. And morning and evening prayer became an important thing for me. Still are. I was a missionary overseas. I worked for Young Life for a tiny bit. I worked for Youth for Christ, which is a lot like Young Life. I worked with English-speaking kids and their parents, like what they call third culture kids, which I think yesterday was International Third Culture Kid Day. So I worked with those kinds of kids whose moms and dads live outside of their own passport country and have taken them there. So these are kids who have a very unique experience and a unique outlook on life. I got married, have 3 kids. We live now in North Texas, in what is the fastest growing city in the country, or one of them, Celina, and that's where we're trying to put a church. I became
Yeah,
Episcopalian
awesome.
along the way. That was
Along the way.
yada, yada, yada.
Well, so much interesting stuff to dive into. Share, if you would, just anything you want. You mentioned the Book of Common Prayers. Maybe let's talk through that. Like how, again, I grew up Baptist, and I think even to me, like the Book of Common Prayers is still kind of a mystery to me. Like, but it seems like in these non-liturgical settings, contexts, traditions, like folks are finding more appetite for these liturgical practices. What do you think it is about like the Book of Common Prayers that really resonates with you and with others, you think?
For me, it was growing up Baptist and then living overseas and interacting with churches kind of all over the world. There was this disparity in quality of liturgy in the churches. Just like, every church has a liturgy.
Right.
So the goings on of the church service, there was a disparity in the quality and how they were doing it, and it was all hit or miss. And you walk into a service, and then it always kind of came down to the pastor. Like, how good is this sermon going to be? Because that's really all we're going to judge this on.
Right.
And even when I was in seminary, I knew the people that I was in seminary with, and I liked those people. But I also thought, like, I really don't know if this is who we should be trusting the future of evangelicalism to. And what they call the anonymity of the caller initially is what drew me in further. The fact that when I was overseas and would walk into a Church of England parish or an Anglican parish, wherever in the world, Middle East, North Africa, England, Germany, it was kind of, there was this similarity. There was a rhythm. You could find yourself in the part of the service. You knew where you were. And I really loved that. And the idea that, like, okay, the pastor or the priest could leave because they died or got old or whatever, and the church is not going to go away. Right. And no one even asked that question.
Yeah.
It's just, who's the next priest going to be? To me, that was such a change and a refreshing change. It wasn't this, like, a new priest coming into this church or leaving the church wasn't this foundational problem with the parish, but instead it was just another thing that happened, a breathing in and a breathing out. I really, that struck me. And then, like, I think, I've written about this extensively, but like my experience through the emerging church movement led me deeper into exploring how Christianity has been done for a longer period of time and trying to be, like, true to the historic faith, but also, back then in the early 2000s, it was all about being authentic,
right?
Being authentic and finding some real expression. And Anglicanism fit that well for me without completely dismantling faith and losing sight of Jesus.
Yeah. This is good stuff. It's funny you mentioned, like, the leadership transition. Like, I imagine similar. Like, I listen to a lot of, like, evangelical kind of church revitalization, Carrie Nieuwhof, Rainier. Right. Like, leadership transition is such an obsession, and for good reason. Like, you've got to get the next good leader in there, or else, like, the next pastor can really tank your church. Like, I've seen it happen even in where I live in churches around here. But like you said, like, when it's not about, like, just the pastor, like, wow, does that make a difference?
No, it's true. And, like, it's a bit of a generalization. Like, it does happen.
Obviously,
in my tradition.
It matters.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it matters. Like, you get the wrong leader and they're just, like, terrible. Like, that makes a difference. But I think the broader point you're trying to make is, like, it's not just dependent solely upon, like, the quality or personality or charisma of the leader.
Right. And it's something that we lost as Christianity has evolved into a less denominational alignment.
Right.
We are kind of losing that.
Yeah.
People, when they move to town, are just going to whatever church is the best quality, or they're not going to church at all, as opposed to being like, I'm an Episcopalian, so I'm going to find the closest Episcopal church, which, nobody is doing that anymore.
Yeah. I'm a great example. Like, I don't know if, I guess I've admitted this in public. I am ordained Disciples of Christ, and I attend a United Methodist Church, because I feel like it's the best for my family.
Right.
And it is what it is. So, well, we're already getting into some interesting conversation, and I don't want to take time away from what I want to talk about here. And that's, I think, the biggest, most exciting thing to me is I'm someone who's started a church in the mainline world, and I'm very much interested in the future of the mainline Protestant context. So you're starting a church, and I think the biggest question is why start a church? Like, what kind of compelled you? I think conversely, the question could be asked, and I'm sure you've been asked this, like, why did you think about a new church rather than revitalization of an existing church? What about the community that you're in that you want to start in? So it's a lot there, but feel free to run.
Yeah, so there's two answers to why it's important to plant the church in Celina, Texas. And one is kind of the more nuts and bolts reasoning, and the other is the more like grace-filled gospel reasoning. The first is that 800 people a month move to this town. It's the fastest, like I said, it's the fastest growing city in the United States. It is rapidly expanding, and it started out very small. So just a few years ago, 2018 or so, there were less than 50,000, less than 20,000 people in town. And now we're well into the 70,000 people in town range, last I read. But that number is going to continue to grow. Like the school district is going to triple in size in the next 10 years. So people are moving to town with families. There has never been an Episcopal church in this town. There's never been a Roman Catholic church in this town. This is Baptist country through and through. And so there is no church for me to revitalize in Celina. There's never been one. And so the nuts and bolts reasoning would be because there needs to be an Episcopal church in a town this size. It behooves us as a denomination to be here as people move in and as young families come and potential members move to town. The other reason is, God is bringing people into this area, and I'm already here. And it's much cheaper to send me here than it would be to send me anywhere else. I already live here. So putting a church up to share the gospel with folks, to tell people their sins are forgiven as they move to town, is what we are called to do as ordained ministers. So planting a church in Celina is an outgrowth of the gospel. And as God is moving in our diocese, we're continuing to go up. The two most recent successful church plants, or the three most recent successful church plants in our diocese, have come since the year 2000. And all three are kind of moving up north, from Dallas to McKinney and Frisco to Prosper, and now us in Celina. So we just keep on going north.
Interesting. So how we got connected is I wrote a Substack about kind of this idea. What I was kind of thinking was the future of the church, of this like parish model or community hub model. And I think you found it and were like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do in Texas. And I was like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess talk more about like how your kind of model for church planning is going to look like and what your vision behind that is.
Yeah. So I am a firm believer that the parish model is the thing that's going to outlast everything else. I think it's going to outlast the attractional church. It's going to outlast a lot of these other things.
Yeah.
Because it takes really seriously the idea of loving our neighbors as ourselves, including our next door neighbors. So loving the people who share a fence with me, like I love myself. And I think a parish model that, like the old parish in England or the UK, where the priest of the village saw the entire parish as his parish, whether they attend their church or not, I think is the model. So for me, that involves me finding ways to be intimately involved with this community, whether it's going to city council meetings, attending arts council dialogues, hanging out at the downtown local coffee shop in a collar, to just talk to regular people who don't go to my church, because I view every single citizen of Celina as my parishioner, whether I ever administer communion to them or not.
Yeah.
That's what the city needs, is a church that's for the city, as opposed to a church that's trying to get things or benefit from being in Celina. We need a
Mm-hmm.
church where Celina benefits because I'm there. And the
Yeah.
parish model provides that. It also provides, in a city like Celina, that's suburb, it's growing quickly. It's never had a robust or vibrant cultural hub because it's never had that many people.
Right.
Providing a place where artists, visual artists, musicians, and all that can meet and gather and share ideas in a safe and welcoming environment, I think is important and benefits the city as well. Like being a
Yeah.
cultural hub that hosts concerts and is able to give something back to the town. We also, part of the parish model for me involves a school.
Mm-hmm.
Forever, Anglican churches have had schools and been part of education. So up here, the public schools are amazing. We're not trying to compete with public schools. We're
Right.
going to provide childcare, preschools from 2 years old up to 4. That's where we're going to find parents and families that need somebody to watch their kids, provide Christian education, and get their kids prepared to go to the great public schools. And
Yeah.
again, a value add, seeing those people whose kids go to my preschool as my parishioner, whether they attend a Sunday service or not, is part of my role as a parish priest.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And this is something like a bigger project I'm working on. I really think childcare, like it's not a silver bullet, obviously. And obviously context and space and all that matters. But like, I've seen it done very well. Like, shout out to Sandy Dillon, former colleague and pastor of mine at Wash Park UMC, like, was so good at connecting with these families at the church preschool. And, you know, what would inevitably happen was these families would get connected with the church and be like, or excuse me, with the preschool. And then it's like, oh, I guess we want to go to church. And, well, we know this pastor, we know this church, and boom, bang, boom. And again, I'm sure, like, Drew, you're not doing this just because, like, hey, we want this to be a pure, like, on-ramp.
Right.
But it inevitably becomes that. Like, I don't.
No,
it's just a great way.
There's absolutely, I mean, it's an on-ramp to getting people into the door, to realizing that Episcopalianism isn't weird. I mean, in a place where there's no
Right.
Episcopal church,
Right.
it is a benefit to have something where you are,
Yes.
potential new member
A
facing.
side door.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the church I work at in Prosper has a preschool, and it has been a massive outreach tool for us. So many people who don't have a church home, whose kids love our school, end up coming to our services. And that's a lot of Easter service people. I don't have anywhere to go on Easter. My kid loves this school. I'm going to go to his school on Easter. And, it's a no-brainer for us. We can show people that we love your kids. We love your family. We're not a weirdo. Come on. Come and hear the good news.
Okay, let's talk this then. Like, and let's try to tread lightly, I suppose.
Yeah.
Navigating the mainline culture as a new church starter, especially someone from not a lifelong mainliner, not lifelong Episcopalian. This was a challenge that I feel like I had to navigate sometimes more successfully than other times. But, in a judicatory that, like the Episcopalians, like other mainline Protestant denominations, like they've done things one way or another for a long time. And church planting in many mainline Protestant groups has not been a priority the last 20, 30 years. Like, talk through that. What does that look like for you?
No, it's interesting. And like you mentioned, just coming from outside of this denomination, coming from a place where like church planting was very much normal, and people just kind of had a language and a vocabulary for it. It is very interesting how much I'm learning that people don't know within this tribe. And why would they? Like, we planted a ton of churches 100 years ago, and they're doing really well, but no one remembers when they were planted. They got beautiful buildings, they've got an endowment, they're doing great, and we don't remember who started it or when that happened. And so for a lot of people, the idea of just like putting out a sign that says the Episcopal Church welcomes you in front of a brand new building That's how
Right.
you plant a church.
Yeah.
But like, no one's gonna come. Like, like I think that's the bit that is difficult to describe. Like, if
Oh
we
man,
just
and
go,
it's so hard for some people to grasp. Like,
like, if I just go buy some building and put a sign out front and say, "Hey, we're having an Episcopal church service on Sunday," it's gonna be
yeah,
me and my wife and kids. Like,
yeah,
but the hard work of meeting people, or of taking, or of asking people at other churches who live in my town, "Hey, would you be willing? Are you feeling called to help me come and start this in our town?"
mm-hmm,
That's been a difficult kind of sell for some people. And I'm watching people as they're bristling because their conceptions of what this looks like are being challenged.
yeah,
But I'm having to kind of say, look, I'm not stealing from people. This is
mm-hmm,
this is our ecclesial model. Like,
right,
we try to put churches close to where people live, so you don't have to drive past 6 Episcopal churches to go to the one you like.
yeah,
So that's what we're trying to do. So I am hoping to educate, but also at the same time be educated, 'cause I don't know a lot, and
mm-hmm,
I have been running into the bumpers on the bowling lane on
right,
how to get down there, how to figure out how to navigate this culture that I'm still somewhat new to.
yeah. How long have you been in the Episcopal world again?
Yeah, so I've been working in the Episcopal world since 2020. I've
Okay,
been a confirmed Episcopalian since 21, and I've been
okay,
ordained since 23. But I have a degree
yes,
in Anglican studies that I got somewhere in there too, and from Wycliffe in Toronto. And so I now know a lot more than I did, but I'm still
yeah.
learning a ton more.
Is this like a thing in Episcopal world where people will be like, "Oh, I'm first generation," or "I'm third generation," or fifth generation, or fourth generation
Yeah.
Episcopal? And let me say this: I won't say this for you, Drew. You can you can agree or not disagree. That's up to you. Like, I'm going to say this to mainliners. I've said this before. Like, don't ever say in your church what generation mainliner you are. It's just like the giant biggest turnoff to anybody who's
Mhm.
not a part of your tradition ever. And I'm sorry to be harsh, but like, just don't do it ever.
It's an interesting thing people do, and it kind of mirrors, like, up here, since we're growing so quickly, the city is changing so rapidly. And so you see
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people do the same thing about, I've been in Celina since
Oh
91, or
yeah,
my
yeah,
granddad's from here. And they have like
yeah.
the local bumper stickers and stuff. And so you're just trying to like gatekeep,
Mm-hmm.
or anybody you possibly can in order to make yourself
Right.
feel better.
Colorado does it because
Oh
Colorado's
yeah.
been a big thing with like native, and it's like I don't want to spend too much time on
There's
this.
specialized license plates if you're like a
Yes,
descendant of the pioneers or something. Yeah.
it's ridiculous. I mean, it is ridiculous. It's like, hey, obviously we could leave this point in this. Like, we know, many people who have those pioneer license plates were not the first people in this part of the world, right? We know there's
Right.
indigenous people who were there before us. So at least we could say that. But
No, it's interesting you bring this up, because like I'm running into two different cultures. So I am
yeah,
fighting a culture, not fighting. I'm learning and butting up against a culture that doesn't have much exposure to church planting. And then
right.
I'm doing the same thing with a culture that has zero exposure to the main line, or to
Yes.
Episcopalianism.
Yes.
So I am, on one hand, explaining what a church plant is to a group of people, and on the other hand,
Right.
explaining what it is to be Anglican or Episcopalian to the other group of people. And both are difficult, but both have, a little bit of nuance and fun. Because the people that I'm
Yeah.
explaining church plant to up here, they understand that. There's other church plants going in Celina.
Right. Right.
The church they go to used to be a church plant, but like,
Right.
they don't know what I'm doing or what an Episcopal
Right.
priest is. And our church in Prosper has so few what we call cradle Episcopalians. It's
Mm-hmm.
we don't have really I've been Episcopalian for 3 generations at our church. It's because nobody up here, like everybody comes to our church, comes from some other stream. That's just
Yeah.
the nature of it up here.
Let me ask this. When I was doing like, farmers markets and, any kind of tabling I could get to meet people, they'd always want to know, like, are you Christian or Catholic? And it was easy for me. I could just be like, oh, I'm Christian. Like, literally, that's in my denomination's name.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily go and spiel the whole, like, denominational full name and stuff, but I also didn't want to overwhelm people. Like, how do you handle that? Because what do people, like, want to know when you're like, oh, you're leading a new church? Tell me about that.
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting questions I get, and I kind of expect them and can kind of understand what they really mean by how they ask them.
Yeah.
But, I get asked a lot about the new pope, which is great.
Okay.
Like,
Sure.
like, I'll be out and about in my collar, and somebody will say, "What do you think about the new pope?" And I'll be like, "Well, he's not mine, but I think he's probably great." And then that leads into another conversation of like, "What do you mean he's not your pope?" It was like, we don't have a pope. There was a whole thing about it in the 1500s, and I can kind of explain it, but then people will say, "What is Episcopalianism? Is it just Catholic light? Is it just what does it mean? Are you Protestant?" And yes, I'm Protestant. I'm as Protestant as you guys are at your Baptist church, if not more so. And people will ask a lot of those kinds of questions. What kind of church are you? What does your church believe? Do you believe in the Bible? Do you believe in Jesus? Those are the questions people will ask, and all those I'm happy to answer and happy to have good conversations with. I had a girl at a coffee shop 2 weeks ago, ask me, "Is your church all about trying to get people to be better people and do good stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely not." I was like, "Our church is 100% not about that." And she like kind of took a step back. She's like, "We need more people to be good people." It's like, "We absolutely do, but we are under no illusion that trying to be good people is in any way beneficiary to people. In fact, I want to tell you about Jesus." And it was wonderful. She was like, "Oh, okay, this sounds really cool." So I like wrote her name down. It's really great. And people just, when you have a caller on at the coffee shop, and then you have a regular, get some stares, and then you get people who just approach you and talk. And then when you want to have a small talk conversation with them, it really takes them aback because they're like, "Wait a minute, I thought we were going to talk about Jesus, and you want to talk about the Cowboys." So it's really great. It's a really great evangelistic tool but doing Young Life, this doesn't feel unnatural to me, is going out and just chatting with people.
Sure. Gosh, what was I going to ask you? Something about that. Anyway, let's move on to funding, because don't feel like you need to give direct specifics on money and whatever, but like, I know. Oh, I was going to give a shout out to my Anglican co-host, Martha Tatarnik, who's working on a book on Anne Boleyn, who had something to do with all this, why you're not Catholic
why we don't
anymore.
have a pope. Yeah.
Right. So shout out to Martha. Let's talk funding and the challenges just of kind of paying for it. So you don't need to feel free to share what you're comfortable sharing, but like, how is this going to work? Like,
I am overwhelmed with how blessed I am with the support the Diocese of Dallas is giving me. Overwhelmed and also kind of like challenged by it. Like, it really is kind of hey, look, you got a lot of people behind you on this deal. Don't mess it up. But the Diocese of Dallas is helping by acquiring land. So that a piece of property will eventually be purchased, that hopefully the church will be put on, which is that's a huge piece. Up here, the land is kind of growing. I keep saying up here. Everything in Celina is considered up because of the geographic gravity of Dallas. So we're
okay.
Up.
Yeah.
We are having property purchased for us, which I know as a church planter is like incredible.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. The funding for the building eventually will hopefully come from the school. So that's part of the reason for starting a preschool, is that it is a profit maker,
right,
to help fund a church plant that is not going to be able to afford a building on its own for most likely a very long time. And so funding for that will come from the school, will hopefully come from a capital campaign from the core team that I'm assembling. Some of that will go in there as well. Maybe some from the diocese as well. We're still working on grants and things like that to hopefully get money to help build the school, that then the school can help pay for the building that the church can meet in. That's kind of the financial structure I've got worked out right now. It allows for me to still keep a very, very bare bones church budget while meeting in a building that I can't afford. Before that takes place, though, we're going to meet, like everybody else does, a school or in a cafe, wherever I can rent space.
Right. Who came up with this idea of like the preschool? Because several years ago, or I guess it wasn't several, but a few years ago, like there was actually in my neck of the woods like an Episcopal church that was being sold, and I looked at it with a real estate agent and was like, oh my goodness, like this would be a great property to do childcare in. It had a big chunk of undeveloped land. We could build some affordable housing. But like when I talked to a few people, they looked at me like I was sideways. Like, what's been the reception of saying like, hey, we want to do this preschool to help fund our ministry going forward?
Well, I think for us, it's been, we have a case study that's St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Prosper. So St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Prosper was planted. They had their first service in a school, I want to say in 2008, but they didn't build a building until 2016. But the building was built and a preschool was opened like simultaneously. So, and then looking at the numbers, the preschool is carrying all of the capital costs of the building. And so I can point at that and go, hey, look, that works.
Right.
And it works enough that banks are okay with loaning towards it. Because there is a guarantee. And there's so many, the average person moving to my town is in their 30s and has at least one kid. So it's a necessary thing up here. We don't have enough preschools, so it makes a lot of sense that we can move into the market in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch gears a little bit to talking about metrics. This is obviously like an important thing when it comes to new church, depending on who you're working with and depending on what context you're working in, people are going to want to know like how many people, what are your offerings? That being said, like those kind of questions of like how much money you're bringing in is again like the challenge of like a new church, because especially if you're getting folks who are unchurched or new to the faith, like they're not necessarily discipled and giving a huge amount every week, and becoming self-sustaining after 2-3 years is gonna be really challenging. So do you have like I used to have in my context, like I'd want to have 1 or 2 new visitors like every week. So, having regular volunteers, like what are some, I used to always say like, I'm going to try to talk to 10 people outside the church about my new church. Do you have some metrics that you've thought about that you want to try to aim for, and also thought about maybe what you're going to try to not emphasize? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm hoping. I mean, we're still so new on this thing that we haven't met as a core team much.
Sure.
So I'm part of that's by design. Part of that's just, I'm trying to take it a slow growth model.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, I think your metrics are pretty dead on what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to talk to 3 people a week about the church. I'm trying to add 3 people a month to the core team. Yeah. I'm hoping to get 40 adults before I start meeting on a Sunday. 40 adults that are not involved in the service. So not me, not a children's person, not a volunteer. So those are kind of my metrics, and it is slow going, but it also keeps me from being discouraged. Okay, 3 people is not undoable. I can go find 3 people and tell them about what we're doing. I can hopefully add 3 people this month. I could find somebody to host an interest meeting and schedule it out for a couple of months from now.
Yeah, this is good. Related to this challenge is like, I didn't know how else to say it other than like formation versus hustle. Like one of the things that probably was good and bad for me, like I loved the hustle of new church. Like I just loved the hustle of it. But also like, I love the entrepreneurialism of it. I love the make mistakes, fail quick, move on. Like, you just didn't have time to you tried something, it didn't work, you moved on. You had to keep going. How do you balance like the entrepreneurial spirit with also like the slow, patient work of spiritual formation? Because they are in many ways, like they don't fit together in some ways. Because spiritual formation, again, like especially with having I don't know, again, what your runway is, but like, especially in some contexts, like if your runway is 2 to 3 years, like that's going to be hard to make disciples in 2 to 3 years. Talk more about how that works for you.
No, you're right. They are almost at odds with one another in some ways. Because you're constantly having to try to find new people and go deeper with them at the same time, not losing the folks that you've had for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I mean, and my starting chapters of parachurch ministries and then starting a church, that fun stuff for me is the entrepreneurial, like, let's dream it up. No one has any idea what this plane's going to look like. Let's build it, even if we're flying it. And like, I was one of the weirdos who loved COVID ministry because it was like, no one has any idea what this is supposed to look like. We get to just make it all up as we go. And that's the most fun thing. That was the creative portion of it that I thought was great. I love that stuff. I love trying to figure out where we can meet people, how we can do things. I love one of the things that I had a mentor early on in Young Life and Youth for Christ that would tell me, you cannot be afraid of a no-show.
Yes.
You cannot be afraid of a no-show club. That's what he would say. And so for me, I had several where I would work on a talk, get kids excited, and then I'd show up and not one person would turn up. Yeah. But the discipline was, I don't cancel. I'm back the very next week at the same time, and somebody else is going to show up.
Yeah. I'm going to cut you off here, Drew, because I think this is so important. Like, so important. I remember one Sunday, it was 10:35, and we would always start at 10:35. And there was it was me and the worship leader, and I mean, there were some kids there and the kids staff, but like there was nobody in our worship space, right? There was literally empty chairs. And everybody was like, the worship leader and was looking at me like, what are we going to do? I'm just like, we're going to roll as if there's a full crowd. So I just got up and I said, welcome to church. Thanks for being here. And it's funny, like, as it turned out, like, that turned out to be like a pretty, like, good attendance Sunday. Like, everybody was just late. But it seems like to me, once you've kind of gone on this, even subtly, like, oh, we can start 10 minutes later, we can just cancel. Like, it kind of has this way of worming its way into, like, this doesn't really matter.
Right. No, you're right. You don't ever cancel. That was like, you don't cancel.
Yeah.
No matter what. Because then all of a sudden it gives people excuses to miss. They begin wondering, I wonder if he's going to cancel.
Yes.
So yeah, you don't cancel club. That's like the rule we used to say all the time. And like, for me as a church planter, it's the discipline of, I'm going to show up. I'm going to post on Facebook, and I'm going to be at the downtown coffee shop at noon. If nobody comes and says hello to me, I'm going back the very next week, because the work that I'm doing is still the good work, whether anyone turns up for it or not. And that's, it will either be blessed by the Holy Spirit or it won't, but it's not up to me to decide that.
Right. And I think that's the other side I was going to say. Like, to me, I used to say, like, the most important characteristic of a church planter is being able to get out of bed Monday morning.
Yes.
Like, if Sunday morning was rough, if there wasn't great attendance, if things went a mess, like, you've got to be able to get out of bed Monday morning, be like, all right, we're doing this again.
Yeah. You have to have a very short memory.
Yes.
And like an unwavering optimism.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, a bit of a overconfidence in the mission. Like, this is what the mission is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It reminds me not to be like,
I'm getting those vibes again. Like, I want to go start a church today.
I know a good one in Celina.
I know you want me to move to Celina.
It reminds me of a sports story. And I mean, this is what I used to live for, but like,
right.
Steve Spurrier, when he was coaching at Florida, used to draw all of the football plays that he would draw them ending in the end zone. So
Hmm.
he would draw an end zone on every play. So you're like, oh, we don't have any plays to get 6 yards. Every
Right.
single thing we do is to get into the end zone. And so when we don't, we go up and run another touchdown play. Every single play is a touchdown play. And that's kind of the short memory. Like if it didn't work out, guess what? I'm running the same thing tomorrow because it's designed to score. It's designed to work. And so eventually I believe that it will.
You'd probably appreciate this. Jerry Rice sort of did the same thing,
Yeah.
right? In practice, he'd always take every catch to the house.
Take to the house. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
where you're trying to go.
Yeah. All right. Important question here before we take a break. Let's talk about soul care. How do you, I think, I don't know how to impress upon you the importance of this, just as a former church planter. When you think about yourself, think about your family. I already recommended to you this book by Tim Morey, who I had on the podcast a few years ago, How to Plant a Church Without Losing Your Soul. Again, maintain appropriate boundaries here, but like, how do you hope to take care of yourself, take care of your family?
Yeah, I have an amazing coach. His name's Bob Logan. He's awesome. We meet monthly. And the first question he asks me every time is, how's your soul? And I think it's an important thing. You're absolutely right. Like, I have to be a person who is full of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness in order to like actually do any good work.
Yeah.
In order to and I have to allow the Holy Spirit to change me and transform me in order to transform my community. And as I lose sight of that, it's when I begin thinking that it's my effort or what I'm trying to do or my work that's going to do things. Then it's not. I'm going to burn out. I'm going to become ash. I meet with him monthly. I have a ton of people that are praying for me. He recommended I start a core team, but then simultaneously have a prayer team that is
that's good.
mostly made up of folks who aren't coming to my church, who don't live in Celina. And I email them at least monthly, sometimes twice a month. Please pray for these specific things. Please pray for me and my family. Please pray for this thing, these kids that I've met, these young adults that I interacted with, this mom of 3. Please pray for us. And that's been awesome. Just the discipline of writing those emails has been great. I do morning prayer as well. And I think, I mentioned this actually in a sermon yesterday. I think it's incredibly telling that in the prayer book that Cranmer, when they put morning and evening prayer together, there's a confession and absolution at both services. As if to say, you're going to forget between breakfast and dinner that your sins are forgiven. Like you're going to forget in the one day, in a 20-hour period, that my sins are absolved. And I think doing that for me, just doing the practice of confession and receiving absolution, or remembering my absolution, has been very helpful for me. Just remembering that I'm forgiven.
Well, let's talk about this because I need you to keep talking because my kid is screaming in the background. Family, like, this is a challenge. Like, you grew up Baptist. I was just reading Beth Allison Barr's book. Can't remember the title. Recommend it.
Oh, is it the female pastor book that just came out? I haven't read it. Yeah. How do
you like balance, like, how do you balance that with your wife, with your kids? Like, I was of the opinion, like, obviously I wanted my wife and kids to be highly involved, but also I didn't want my wife becoming a unpaid co-pastor.
Right. No, and that's huge. I think my wife knows that she's going to be involved. She's gotten that memo. At the same time, like trying to set up a boundary there where it's like, I'm planting this church on the behalf of the Diocese of Dallas, but I do not expect you to be an unpaid co-pastor of this thing. And luckily, the Episcopal Church doesn't really expect her to be either, which is really nice.
Yeah.
There isn't that unwritten expectation of the pastor's wife in my denomination as much as there have been in some. We don't get to put both of our names on the website as pastor. I think we're trying to maintain balance. I'm also like, I've asked a number of people when I meet them, how can I pray for you? Or priests that I know that are older and that I ask for advice. I remember I was with a couple of them And people were asking them different advice. All the young priests were asking advice. And my question was like, how do you not screw up your kids? Like my number one question is like, look, you guys have great kids and they're well adjusted and they're older. And like my kids are 7, 4, and 2. How do I get my kids to the finish line without me and my role and what God's doing in my life messing them up?
Yeah.
And he said, you pray for them and you pray with them and you're around them and you set the expectations of, hey, look, I might not be at everything because of my job. But when I'm at the thing, I am 100% at the thing. I'm there. Part of that for me has come down to like, I don't wear my collar when I'm at a school function for my daughter. She's the only one that's old enough to have school stuff. So like, I'm not in the collar when I go to her school for pickup. I'm not in my collar when I go to her school to do, to watch her performances or whatever, just because I need her to know that his dad is being dad in this moment. And like ontologically, when I get into that, maybe, I'm still a priest at that moment, but like, no, I'm dad.
It's a good practical boundary. Well, let's take a quick break here and let's come back with some closing questions. Let's roll into some closing questions here because, my kid is losing his mind upstairs, and
my kid apparently my kid apparently just put himself to sleep, which has never happened before. So my 4-year-old did. So maybe we're all sick. Who knows?
Maybe. You don't have a pope. We kind of talked about this, but if you were a pope or had a significant influence in Christianity, what would you want to do for that day?
It's a great question. If I were to be made pope, I think I would like to get people together and ask, are we really about reconciliation? Especially people who have split off from various denominations for whatever reason. Do you genuinely have a roadmap towards reconciliation? Or do you really care about it? Or are you what are you actually about? Because if you're really about reconciliation with one another and ecumenism, then let's have a conversation. But if you don't actually care about those things, if you're not actually about that, then I think you're grieving the body of Christ. So that's what I would do. I would start start in and go out. Let's talk about ourselves first. Can we see any roadmap towards unity as Christians, or are we really just about building our own tribe, our own brand?
Yeah. A theologian or historical Christian figure you'd want to meet or bring back to life?
That's a great question. Theologian. I'd like to meet Robert Jensen.
Who? I don't know that name.
Robert Jensen was a Lutheran theologian from 20th century. He only passed away a few years ago.
Okay.
But his American theologian, he might be one of the most important American theologians of the 20th century. He has meant a ton to me in my formation here recently. Yeah, I would love to meet him. I'd also love to meet Thomas Cranmer.
Sure.
And just chat with him about what's going on.
What do you think history will remember from our current time and place?
This is not really Christian, but I think I'm hopeful that my eldest child, my 7-year-old especially, by the time she is in high school, she will look back at social media the way that we look at cigarettes.
Ooh.
That is my hope. That by then we have already moved into, I cannot believe everyone was doing this all the time. I cannot believe kids were doing this at school, because it was killing people.
Yeah, you're not wrong. What do you hope for the future of Christianity?
That we might work towards being a better reflection of Christ's unified body in the world, that we can get over minor things and get back onto the creeds, the main things, that we can work to re-enchant the world to a world that's desperate for it being re-enchanted. Like, to say there's more to this than what you can see and what you can describe in therapy. Like, there's more to what's going on, and we can be a voice for that. And to tell people their sins are forgiven.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like I need to ask you like a good sports question.
Yeah, go for it.
So, I don't know, you're in Dallas, like how about the Cowboys coming up? Like, They're going to be a usual mess? Like,
Mess.
What do you think?
The Cowboys are a mess. The Cowboys will be continuing to be a mess. Every year at some point, I either text my brother. I have decided once again to emotionally invest myself in the Dallas Cowboys football team, or the opposite will be true. Like about 8 weeks in, I go, I am really glad I have not decided to emotionally invest myself in the Dallas Cowboys. But it's awful because they are consistently pulling the football away from Charlie Brown.
Right. Okay. You can be quick on this because I know we're running out of time, but
Yep.
The Cowboys are an organization that continually astounds me when you think about unlimited resources, a great history, an owner who theoretically seems to at least profess to care about winning.
Sure.
What is it about that organization that can't win? I mean, I know winning is not guaranteed in the NFL, but
it is proof that for some teams, getting everything right can still go wrong because they have found a new way to lose big games. It's not even one thing. You can't point to one thing, go, if we can get the quarterback right. I think they have a decent quarterback. If we get better defense, I think they've got decent defenders. You don't know which part of the car is going to fall off, but you do know that one part will eventually fall off. That's the Cowboys. The Cowboys are this institution that has no reason to be unsuccessful, yet finds new ways to be unsuccessful over and over and over again.
I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but I feel like it is almost a metaphor of this idea, that culture of losing or something always coming up short really does matter. And breaking that culture, again, I mean, we talked about this somewhat from the beginning about mainline culture. Those cultures are hard to break and they're hard to shift the unhealthy patterns. So share, if you would, how people can connect with you if they want to get involved, on your prayer list. I got to deal with my kid screaming upstairs.
No worries. Advent Celina. I'm at Advent Celina on Instagram. That's ADVENTCELINA. Celina's with a C. Advent Celina on Instagram. You can find my Substack at fatherdrew.substack.com. Both places are kind of the best places to reach me. Send me a message on there and I can add you to the email list. I try not to do much personal social media if I can for that same reason. And I am, trying to build a church. So if you do know people in Celina or, the surrounding area, it's a big geographic region. Let them know. We got a good one coming.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed this conversation. We always leave folks with a word of peace. So may God's peace be with you.
And also with you.
Thanks for joining us on the Future Christian Podcast. The Future Christian Podcast is produced by Resonate Media. We love to hear from our listeners with questions, comments, and ideas for future episodes. Visit our website at future-christian.com and find the Connect with Us form at the bottom of the page to get in touch with Martha or Loren. But before you go, do us a favor. Subscribe to the pod to leave a review. It really helps us get this out to more people. Thanks, and go in peace.